what are we to make of the bike lanes downtown in Chattanooga? Are they for local economy, or do they somehow impede local economy? Do they slow it down? Or the administration of the mayor is suggesting that it is good for businesses, that people, if they are driving or riding bikes or walking, are more likely to buy things in and among the stores where these bike lanes have been put in, some with a green stripe, other lanes have been put in with concrete barriers, which prevent vehicles from intruding into that space. This is David Tulis, and our show covers local economy and the free markets. How do we increase both? How do we take advantage of both of these concepts? These are facts. They're not just ideas. And yet, what we do here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio is to examine them as ideas. The idea of local economy, I guess you would say, is what we look at, not just the business news, though there is business news to look at, no doubt today. And we are glad that you're giving us just a couple minutes of your time. The story about the bike lanes is one that emerges, I think, with some surprise. People are concerned about the constriction of automobile traffic, but that is the point. I guess that is the point, that automobile traffic be constrained. We have 2 lanes or even 3 lanes that are down now to 2 or to 1, depending on the street. The story by Bill Mitchell at our CBS affiliate TV 12 quotes Blythe Bailey, the administrator of the city transportation department, is saying, we're going to actually enhance that with some more door-to-door communications, because the projects that we're doing, we feel like, are a primary benefit to the business owners and shop owners on the streets that we're doing them on. That's, again, a very kind of loquacious and kind of sidewindery kind of sentence there, with a kind of an unusual sentence structure. I'm not sure how you would diagram Blythe Bailey's sentence, but he's saying essentially that we have to convince people that this is a good program, even the people who are whose storefronts face these special lanes and the constriction on traffic. He says the story by Bill Mitchell on TV 12 also quotes Philip Pugliese, the manager of the Bike Grant Program, which is a money-losing government program that's cost $1 million, has generated a couple $100,000 in revenue, not covering its expenses, according to earlier coverage in the Chattanooga Times Free Press. And he says the Broad Street program, the Broad Street Protected Bike Lane project is new for Chattanooga. It's been demonstrated in cities all around the world. The bottom line is, evidence shows that people walking and on bikes spend more money. That is the bottom line. So he's insisting that this will enhance local economy, though we wonder a little bit about the constriction on the public use of the road, right? The use of the road by 2 men in one car on the left and another on the car on the right. Well, now they can't go side by side and approach the same stoplight. They have to decide who's in front, right? And so you have potentially traffic backing up behind them as they decide, okay, well, you're first. No, you're first. You go down the road first. And pray for a parking lot. Pray for a parking lot. It is kind of strange. When I first encountered these rise barricades on Broad Street, I didn't quite know where to park, and it was a little bit confusing. But new things are confusing, and people simply, you, my listener, and the people, the man in the next work cubicle to you, we're just going to have to figure it out. Just as we figured out without too much trouble the end of some parallel parking downtown and the arrival of angular parking that lets many more cars park there, though with the loss of one lane. There's a quote also in Bill Mitchell's report of Rob Simmons of the police department. He says, I think the most important thing that motorists, as we're going through this change in our downtown infrastructure, he says, is to take it slowly. So in other words, you have to figure out what's going on here. If you have bicyclists suddenly in your view or in your rearview mirror coming up on you as you're making a turn, you have to say, okay, well, I'm in a dangerous position and I'm in a 1-ton hunk of metal with a motor running, and I better move slowly because I see people on bikes nearby, and I don't want to hurt anyone by not being aware of my blind spots, not being aware that we are in a bike friendly city. I think there might be some concern by some free market defenders who would say, well, this is part of a larger plan to herd people into cities and to restrict traffic. Well, maybe, but as I'm trying to think now of the sum of this argument, which points to to UN population, or should I say depopulation plans, and the sense that in the UN literature that we have to control everybody, we have to put everybody in its proper place and create more green spaces and so on. There's in the agenda overall, there is of course a complete disregard for the right of property, and also the right of municipal governments to decide among themselves what they how they want to govern their public assets. That would be, in this case, roads and sidewalks. And is this part of a larger plan, maybe, that some would say is kind of a conspiratorial in nature? Is it that to bring us into Agenda 21 and have a loss of our property rights and our self-government as a city? Well, it's hard to tell at this point that it is, though I would say that the changes seem to be, by some of the grumblings I've heard, seem to be directed, or according to the grumblings I've heard, the changes are brought about by the people who know better, right? And we could say that those are the good people in city government who are bringing these changes, and they're not very democratically brought about. They're not brought up. These changes are not brought about by a vote, and so we have what's done in the administrative realm. It's not the political realm directly. It's administrative, and these changes are changing the traffic flow on some streets downtown, Broad, North Market, and Dodds Avenue. And so the administration, with Blythe Bailey being, I guess, the chief figurehead, is asking that you, the listener here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, just give some time to thinking about this and looking what's happening and seeing maybe a benefit in it. Now, the theory behind the rise of the lost lane and the addition of bike lanes is part of, I think, at least conceptually, of the form-based zoning proposal that's also been pushed by the Hamilton County City Planning Commission, and that proposes long-term changes in the way zoning permissions are granted. It's not the arrival of the free market, however, and it too, this system is proposing changes in zoning that will mitigate the effects over decades of the current zoning regime, which has proven to be unworkable. But the question I raised among zoning officials when we were looking at this earlier is this: well, isn't your current plan also going to cause constrictions into the future? Can't we have a free market? Can't you just let the marketplace decide, as in places such as Houston? Why can't we have a Houston system? Well, we don't have a Houston system. We don't have freedom of that in that way here. We have planners who are making commitments that affect decisions for decades ahead, and then at the end of those decades, there'll be a crisis. There'll be a kind of sickness that the control has brought into you might say, the body politic, or you might say the architectural body, the sum of all the architecture and improvements in Chattanooga. And those things happen when there's not a free market. Those things happen when there are results from administrative decisions led by civil engineers, led by planning elites, people who are studied in questions of city design and so on. They are I would say long term. The view is negative. Okay, the view is negative, even though the reform now, of which the bike lanes seem to be a part, are, I would say, favorable. These are favorable changes. And if you want to find out more about form-based planning, if you've never heard about it, well, then you can go to Chattanoogan.com. has an interview that was given to me by two of the principals in form-based planning. Again, I've mentioned form-based planning because it's a similar idea to what's happening with the bike the bike paths and the rise of the pedestrian, right? The interest that city government has in the pedestrian and people walking and actually walking. This, oddly enough, the story comes within the same day or two of a report about how Tennesseans are, remarkably overweight. Well, there are some connections here that are worth looking at with favor. I would say look at them with favor. And while there might be the question in the back of your mind, as there is in mine, about the loss of liberty and the whole zoning apparatus, right? Zoning is an apparatus as a state intervention in the marketplace, always should be viewed with suspicion. But that, I'm not saying lay that aside too firmly, but that momentarily on the sideline, in the sidebar, look at the connection here between form-based planning, which seems for the moment, right? Only for the moment, it seems very favorable, and the idea of bikes and pedestrians being elevated among the people who are on these streets. And I think we need to see there is a benefit in there for local economy, and there's even a benefit, if I could go so far as to suggest this. Now as I think with you about it, there is even a benefit for the conviviality, if you will, of local economy. Conviviality. The person of conviviality, I would say, is Eric Judd here at our Mike and Eric show in the morning, our morning talk show, and the idea of laughing and having a good time and enjoying barbecue, that kind of thing, enjoying choo-choo barbecue. That's where your conviviality comes in. That is a social grace. That's something that I would say has it's better if we can see how we can arrange things, if we can, to improve that and take a little bit away from the digital thumbs on the device kind of picture that we have more and more, where people don't know how to have personal relations and don't know how to have conversations anymore. I think the art of conversation is a lost art, and we have that loss again because of state interventions in the marketplace. I'd say particularly in the educational sector, there's a great deal of damage there that we have because children are segregated in like cells every day at the so-called classroom. And that is something that prevents the kind of graces that come when you have to deal with very young people or people much older than yourself or people in different situations than yourself. The idea of segregation of by age, I think, is a grievous damage to the marketplace and a damage to the family. But that's going a little bit further than I wanted to in these observations about Bill Mitchell's story. Again, that's Bill Mitchell doing a write-up on this at TV12, our CBS affiliate. We are AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, brought to you by Patrick Neal. Patrick Neal is the Edward Jones financial advisor in Hickson. He is the Hickson advisor to call, and the number to reach him is 870-7894, 870-7894, and his office is behind the Target, it's next to the Target shopping center on Highway 153 behind the Cutter Banking building. Very reasonable man, likes to give time to hear about your situation, and is backed up by the terrific research teams, the market analysts at Edward Jones. Now, also, just by the way, it is the change of the season, and I know your heater's been running at least a little bit. Make sure you get that checked as you go from cool to heat, and have Superior Air Systems ring you up. That's Superior Air Systems, 886-6602, 886-6602. There's another account about a picture of when state intervention retreats a little bit. Okay, there's always a groaning and a complaining about that. And the story is by a weather forecaster here in Chattanooga on TV3, WRCB TV. And I don't know if you noticed that story or heard it, maybe, well, this is a couple days old now, but it was updated yesterday. And it's about the FAA getting rid of official weather observers at 3 dozen or so airports around the country, including at Level Field here in Chattanooga. And the story says that there would be job losses, potential safety hazards, and of course now we need to start getting worried about this, right? We have to worry about the retreat of the state at one desk, right? One government desk, paid for by the federal deficit deficit spending, having no one there. And the man there now is Charles Starrett. He's the senior weather observer at the Contract Weather Office, the CWO. Been here for 2 decades, knows, of course, a lot of people in Chattanooga. And he found out about his job being cut. And the story from Charles Starrett is that, well, there's danger lurking. If I'm not here, there's danger to people who travel. He says there was a huge lack of interest, a huge lack of knowledge and understanding of the weather. The problem is, of course, if weather instruments fail, that he won't be there, right? He won't be there to give a reading of the weather for planes who are landing or taking off. Dedicated observers are necessary, he says, especially during rapidly changing weather and storms, during which time, of course, planes are coming and going here in Chattanooga. There's a quote also in the story from another man, Jim Hall, he's a local man, formerly the National Transportation Safety Board chairman. Jim Hall says that the plan is dangerous. Okay, we have been able to provide real-time. We have been able, he says, to provide real-time information to pilots flying in and out of Chattanooga. If we lose that, it will make our airport unsafe. Okay, so the story very obligingly goes on to tell us about death, aircraft accidents and deaths. And from 1995 to 2000, more than 4,000 people died in aircraft accidents across the country. And it goes on from there. Hall and Starrett say cutting observers' position isn't worth the risk, and the mere $14 million a year estimate that would be saved nationwide in the federal budget based on the number cuts and the average salary of observers. So there, the argument is, well, it's only $14 million. And look, it's a multi-trillion-dollar budget. And we are, it doesn't say this, but it's implied that, well, we are so deep in Hawk already that how can it possibly matter? How can $14 million matter given the safety that we obtain, right, by having Charles Starrett, the senior weather observer, here in Chattanooga. Now, again, this is a picture. Whenever the state has to retreat, whenever any corporation government, any corporate government pulls back, that is the story. Now, our radio station here, AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, was very active yesterday in the shots fired story that burst out just after. Well, I guess just after breakfast at an hour before lunch, let's say, yesterday, and there was a massive response at the Naval Operations Center on Amnicola Highway, and Matt Barber in his story on TV3 points out that, well, this everyone had heightened awareness of the nature of that place, and but Chief Fred Fletcher said that no one was found. There was no cartridges. There was no precise knowledge of what the sound was, but there was a report apparently that came out of that federal building behind the barbed wire fence there along the front of the river next to Chat State. And the campus was locked down for a time, and the story was quite exciting because when you don't know what's happening, everyone, of course, is glued. And that's what you need to do, my listener. If something is happening that's major like that, in which people break their customs and either go and do or report, and there may be traffic snarls, make sure you tune in here at AM 1240. We are the station in which you report and the world decides. On July 16th, we had all kinds of calls coming in. We were on the air continually during the so-called terrorist attack. It was not a terrorist attack, but it was the Muslim paramilitary attack to attain salvation on the part of one man, Muhammad Abdulaziz. When that story broke, as he was edifying himself before his impersonal deity, we were full time on that story, and everybody, all hands on deck, and with that, there was not a break in coverage at all. We did not even run our favorite commercials, right? We run commercials as a matter of course, and we didn't even run them because it was so pressing to get the current news out there. So we're here, and we can say we're very glad that Chief Fletcher's report is correct. There was nothing there. There's no investigation. It was just something that happened, and all police officers all around the area dropped what they were doing. They were writing traffic tickets. They were maybe harassing some poor black man on the side of the road who was just walking along. Suddenly, everybody abandons what they're doing, rushes down Amnicola Highway, and make sure that the Navy people are in no danger. And in fact, they were in no danger. And that story ended very well. Cameron Morgan writes for Nooga.com and has a story about some noted local businesses, including Feats, which is a 3D printed shoe company that's trying to bring, as she says, mass customization of shoes to a new level. And this business has been nominated for a Chat Tech Early Innovation Award. And that organization, which has a new name now, will be looking for 3 people to honor. This is David Tulis. 3 companies to honor.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Expect lots of clouds and some patchy fog to start out your Thursday. Could see a spotty shower pass through, but not a bad day. Highs warm into the lower 70s tonight. Mild lows near 65. For Friday, breezy, warm highs mid-70s with scattered showers and thunder showers likely Friday night through Saturday morning. For lunch or dinner, come to Guthrie's, home of the original golden fried delicious chicken finger with their special sauce. Open daily locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, and Ringgold. Go get Guthrie's. It's always good. And I'm WDEF News 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
The Fed raising rates, China's economy in trouble. Don't let headlines derail your long-term financial strategy. I'm Edward Jones financial advisor Patrick Neal. At Edward Jones, we provide the tools for a reasoned, disciplined approach to investing. Stop by my office next to the Target Shopping Center in Hickson, or call me at 423-870-7894. That's Patrick Neal at 870-7894. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection, loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
You want more business. You want to increase your bottom line. You want to spend less on advertising, imaging your business, and general expenses. You need Trade Bank. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Trade Bank. Call now to get access to nearly 400 local businesses. Trade Bank. Call 877-2202. 877-2202. Trade Bank. You want to increase your cash flow, your competitive edge, attract new customers, and build a loyal customer base. You need Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call right now. 877-2202. When you join Trade Bank, you'll get the benefit of free advertising in our monthly magazine, tradebank.com, emails, and mailouts. Join Trade Bank now and receive your Trade Bank debit card with trade credits to spend any way you want with our wide variety of Trade Bank partners. For almost 30 years, Trade Bank has been your voice for small business, a member of the American Bankers Association, and in good standing with you. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call now for a free consultation, 877-2202. That's 877-2202. Trade Bank of Chattanooga.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducks. Call now.
Compass Media Network's coverage of the NFL. Hi, this is Jerry Recco. Join Kevin Ray, Danny White, and myself for all the action.
Hot News Talk 1240.
If it's the NFL, it's right here.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. Some British and American experts saying there is intel suggesting the Russian plane was brought down by a bomb. Flights now suspended between the UK and Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, where some 20,000 British are trying to make it home.
We'll do everything we can to help them, but I want to make sure they can come home safely.
British Prime Minister David Cameron. Luke Bryan walks away with Entertainer of the Year at the CMA Awards on ABC. Fox's Ashley Dvorkin in Nashville, where Miranda Lambert won Female Vocalist of the Year. Male vocalist going to
rising star Chris Stapleton, who also won New Artist and Album of the Year.
There aren't really words to that I can put it into because it's such a surreal thing.
Stapleton's highly anticipated collaborative performance with Justin Timberlake also made quite an impression.
And claims for first-time jobless help last week, posting its biggest jump in 8 months, but still near historic lows. Fox News.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
It's rainy today here in Chattanooga, so make sure that you cuddle up to some warm Mexican food. And the food you get should be at Delia's Authentic Mexican Restaurant in South Saudi Daisy. Delia's is right near the Thrasher Light on Dayton Pike and serves a rich selection of the best from south of the border. If you're in town from Germany, you're connecting yourself with the Volkswagen plant, make sure you try what Americans enjoy when they are eating out and eating south of the Rio Grande, and loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, and the rest. All delightfully presented, very good, very solid food. And the special today is the burrito plate. It's $1 off. And also, if you're new there, haven't been to Delia's before, make sure you mention that you heard about Delia's on the radio. And I'll get a little bit of grace from Maria Hernandez, the proprietress of that restaurant. She will renew her advertising with me if you let her know that you hear about her on the radio station. The number is 521-7145. That's 521-7145. We have on the phone Scott Banbury, who is the conservation program coordinator of Sierra Club of Tennessee. He's a former urban logger and runs a wood shop and a workshop. Now he's pulled back a little bit from the logging side of his field. He's 45 years old, and as a Sierra Club member, active in lawmaking and active in litigation. He's a registered lobbyist in Tennessee. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, David. I got to say, Delia's tamales are some of the best in the world.
Well, that's good to hear that. Thank you so much for recommending Delia's to our listener. Well, I have you on the phone because of an interest that we've developed here at Hot News Talk Radio, and that is in this very arcane and somewhat boring subject of coal fly ash. You've been involved in litigation with the Tennessee Valley Authority and other utilities about the topic of coal fly ash. Why? And the context, if I can just remind the listener, is the whole question about stratospheric aerosol geoengineering, or sky striping, as I call it, as a phenomenon of some kind of mysterious phenomenon, and a report published by a scientist that says the content of those jet plumes is coal fly ash. Okay, you're not talking about that directly, but what is coal fly ash? Why should my listener care about it when it's on the ground?
Well, so coal fly ash is the result of the pollution control technology that we put on the smokestacks of our coal-burning power plants. Back in the old days, we used to discharge all the toxic components that are in that coal ash, including mercury and cadmium and arsenic and lead and other toxic metals, into the atmosphere. We successfully got coal-burning plants to put in pollution control devices, scrubbers, that capture that fly ash in the smokestack and bring it back down to the ground so that it can be stored, unfortunately, in unlined and largely unmonitored slurry ponds right alongside of many of our most wonderful rivers that we have here in Tennessee. And we're concerned about it because, of course, you've got these ponds right next to the rivers that got no leachate collection systems or any way of stopping these metals from eventually making their way into the rivers. And that's a threat to our aquatic communities, threat to people who are fishing in our rivers, and just not a good thing at all.
Well, say something about what is leachate? What does that mean? What is the process that contained, or at least partly contained, coal ash gets out? How does it get out? What's the problem?
Well, in a typical landfill, you're going to have a liner at the bottom of the landfill, some kind of impermeable membrane. It's usually made up of rubber and some really dense clay that won't allow water to go through it. It's sculpted to direct the water that comes down through the waste material in the landfill into a treatment pond so that we can actually control and remove any of the toxic materials before they get released to the river. In the case of the coal ash ponds that we have at all of our coal burning plants in Tennessee, they store them in unlined ponds, which allows water to take toxic compounds down through the soil underneath the landfill and into our groundwater, eventually into our rivers.
Okay, so that process is called leaching, and leachate is the material, the liquid material that comes.
Leachate is the toxic materials in water leaking down through the soil into the groundwater.
Okay, so the word leachate implies something unhealthy to consumers, unhealthy to humankind.
That's right.
Well, all right. So your work is you're a conservation program manager for Sierra Club. Does the Sierra Club have a position on coal ash maintenance? Is it involved in lobbying for a certain bill in the General Assembly? Is it involved in litigation, perhaps touching on the material of coal fly ash?
So the Sierra Club believes that coal ash, if we're going to generate it, and Sierra Club believes we should stop burning coal, but as we're burning coal and going to continue to burn coal, we believe that the coal ash with these toxic heavy metals in it should be stored in appropriately engineered landfills with a liner, with a leachate collection system, with a wastewater treatment system to make sure that none of these toxic compounds get into our rivers, into our fish, in many cases into our drinking water supplies. What's going on right now in Tennessee is that the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation has issued an order this summer asking TVA to document Tennessee Valley Authority. They're the people that own all the coal-burning power plants in Tennessee and surrounding states, ordering them to identify all of their current ongoing coal ash waste management that's happening in the state. In most places, again, that's in these unlined ponds. At a few facilities at Gallatin and Kingston, they're in the process of permitting lined landfills. Unfortunately, they're not very well engineered in our minds because they're sitting on top of karst areas or areas that have caves, that have actually, those sites have actually dropped out or had the bottom of the fill ponds fall into the caves and discharge into rivers. The same thing at the same time that TDEC is asking that order, put out that order asking TVA to identify their management strategies. The Environmental Protection Agency has put out what they call a coal combustion residues rule, which is demanding that all utilities across the country come up with management plans for their coal ash. The EPA wants them to shut down these wet, open impoundments, unlined impoundments that are along the rivers, either by excavating the coal ash materials and hauling it off to be disposed of properly in a properly engineered landfill, and or cap them in place. And we're opposed to that idea of capping them in place. And I'll tell you from my own perspective down here in Memphis, coal ash ponds at the Allen fossil plant are right on the banks, essentially the Mississippi River, on a little oxbow lake called McKellar Lake. During the 2011 floods that we had here, we could watch the level of water inside of the coal ash ponds where all of this fly ash slurry is stored rise right in step with the river. So we know that there was total hydraulic conductivity happening through the, essentially what are just really levee walls there. And we know that, water can go back and forth. So can all of the toxic elements that are born in that water.
This is David Tulis. We're talking with Scott Banbury of Sierra Club of Tennessee. Scott, the listener at this point has a question, and that is why does coal fly ash have to be made mud or slurry, which slurry is a kind of thick liquid? Why is that preferable? Why is that important?
I think it's more convenient for them. They can move it around their site easier if it's in a slurry, and so they generally have coal ash, the fly ash. There's many components to what goes into these ponds. There's a fly ash, there's a bottom ash, which is much harder, thicker material. But to get them out of the bottom of the boiler or out of the system that collects the fly ash to the pond, they'd either have to, have some kind of huge mechanical operation going, like trucks hauling it back and forth or whatnot. It's much easier for them to put it in with some water and send it down sluiceways. So they've got these sluices running out from the power plant to the pond, and kind of like you'd have when you pull up with a cement truck, and they assemble that kind of sluiceway from the back of the truck to wherever the cement's going to go.
Right.
And the same thing there.
That makes the coal ash more mobile, but it also has the advantage, from what I understand about this subject, Scott Banbury, that if coal ash is damp, it won't readily take to wind. It won't fly away.
And that's an important thing, David. TVA, after the Kingston disaster, and I'm sure most people in Tennessee are aware of it. It's like one of the biggest stories that's happened in our state in the last decade. In 2008, a little more than 1 billion gallons of coal ash slurry were released into the Emory River, covering like 300 acres of land, 6 foot deep in ash, due to a failed containment wall that had been leaking for years. People had been, aware that there was a problem there. Unfortunately, they put it off until just a couple of days before Christmas, which probably wrecked a lot of people's holidays. That cleanup on that, by the way, has cost us $1 billion or more already.
When you say us, you mean
horrible cost is getting passed on both the consumers of TVA in terms of us paying to clean up after this mess, but also in terms of the health of the people in our areas, because we're being exposed to these materials. So after Kingston, TVA said that they would move to what they call dry ash disposal, which means that they would, instead of keeping it wet, they would keep it covered so that it's not blowing in the wind, and then they would haul it again to an appropriate landfill site, and or build an appropriate engineered leachate controlled site next to the power plant. They've been slow to do that. And part of the concern with that, kind of just pointed out, is that if it's dry, it can be picked up by wind, and this has been a problem in communities where they do landfill the coal ash. If they don't put soil cover on it immediately and a wind kicks up, bam, the community is covered with coal ash. It's also been a problem where they're hauling it in the trucks to the landfills, because sometimes they don't have the tightest tarps on those trucks. And so, along the roadways where these coal ash trucks generally travel, you can kind of see the evidence of the dust along the road.
So coal ash, fly ash, Scott Banbury of Sierra Club, is generally kind of whitish, very light brown, light tan material. It's not black. It's essentially rock and earth left over from the burning process of coal. The energy has been taken out in the furnace and the boiler. The energy, of course, is converted into electricity to serve my listener's house and business, and the fly ash is the waste product. Now,
so again, I want to clarify that the fly ash is just one component of the larger body of material that's called coal combustion residues. So you've got this boiler slag from the bottom of the burning process, heavy stuff that couldn't go up a smokestack to begin with. It all gets mixed together. And then at some sites, they do try to separate it out some, because the fly ash itself can be an important and economical component in making concrete and gypsum board. The Sierra Club questions the healthfulness of that, because if you're putting toxic heavy metals, arsenic, lead, mercury, chromium into wallboard materials, are we being exposed in our houses, or are workers being exposed while they're cutting and working with these materials?
Well, how much waste is created, Scott Banbury, from the coal burning industry in the country? Well, specifically, how much coal fly ash is created by your group's estimates?
I don't have the breakdown on the fly ash component. I can talk about the entirety of the coal combustion residues. And EPA puts that at 110 million tons per year. We put it at 140 million tons per year. And, who knows who's right, but, those aren't too far off. You say 110 to 140 million tons per year. You and I were talking last night. 40% of that 110 to 140 million tons is what they call beneficially reused, and that includes a couple of things. About 50% of that 40% that's reused goes into primarily concrete and gypsum. The other 50% of that 40%, for the large part, is used as fill. For example, here in Memphis, we actually use this coal ash, toxic coal ash material, to fill land along the Mississippi River to expand our industrial parks.
So it's just like dirt. It's just used as dirt.
They're using it as dirt, and then they use no kind of liner. They haul the coal ash out there. Dust is created. Fortunately, where they're doing this activity, there's not that many people exposed to that dust. But they haul it out there, and then they put a couple of feet of dirt on top of it. Unfortunately, this is right alongside the Mississippi River, being piled up to about the height of the levee that protects our industrial infrastructure in Memphis. And if we were ever to have one of these new Madrid earthquake events that you've heard of, it would all go in the river instantly.
Now, this is David Tulis. We're talking with AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We're talking with Scott Banbury, the Conservation Program Coordinator of Sierra Club of Tennessee. And we're talking about a very arcane subject, and that's coal fly ash. And the reason we have Scott on the phone is we want to hear about coal fly ash, what it is, what its hazards are. Just quickly, before I get to my question, another question, Scott. The EPA has declared that coal fly ash is not a hazardous material. It does not have to be treated like PCP waste or things like that.
Yeah, they're essentially saying that, it doesn't have to go into a hazardous waste landfill. They are suggesting that if it goes into a landfill permanently, that it go into what they call a Class 1 landfill, which would be what we put our municipal garbage in. But the industry likes to say, oh, they don't think it's hazardous. EPA does recognize that many of the chemicals found in the coal ash are toxic and can lead to potential risks to human health and certainly aquatic health. And that's why we have a whole other set of rules that are called effluent limitation guidelines. They actually just put some draft ones out final draft of them out on the internet a couple of days ago on the Federal Register. The effluent limitation guidelines deal with the water that discharges from these coal ash ponds on the sides of our rivers after they've gone through what's called a stilling process. So that all the water that's on these wet sites spills over a little dam structure into a pond, another pond next to the coal ash pond, and then the solids settle out, and what looks like clear water is then discharged into the river using an EPA National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit. But we've gone out on boats, taken samples of that apparently and supposed to be clear water, and still come back with chemical analysis that shows higher than recommended and sometimes higher than allowable levels of chromium, arsenic, barium, other metal compounds that are known to cause health impacts and sometimes cancers.
I've got a letter. I had an open records request response the other day from Bob Colby, the director of the Chattanooga-Hamilton County Air Pollution Control Bureau, and I'm asking about the latest data on aluminum, strontium, and barium. And interestingly enough, Scott, the EPA has stopped funding the sensors in at least in Chattanooga that detect those materials. Now, those materials are thought to be they are often found in connection with the creation of artificial cloud cover by jet traffic. And the paper I mentioned a moment ago was by J. Marvin Herndon, the geophysicist in San Diego, who says that coal fly ash is the culprit in that program. That's a program that apparently, that as far as we can tell, is in military jurisdiction. It's under national security. It's not publicly run. It's not publicly accountable to the people, probably even to Congress. It seems to be an operation of the deep state somehow. Well, what are the prospects of his analysis being accurate, that coal fly ash is this material that's coming down? First of all, what are the prospects of that being a true thing? And if it is true, what can my listener expect as to public health and particularly his own health, Scott Banbury?
Well, So, David, I looked at those studies, and what I immediately saw was it made sense to me, not that it was being put out of airplanes, but that if we're burning coal, and the pollution control devices, we try to make them as good as we can to capture all of the toxic elements that might go into the atmosphere, thus creating fly ash at many facilities. That he was able to detect atmospherically, kind of the same compounds and the same quantities, same metals and same quantities that you would find in fly ash. Makes sense to me. If we're burning coal, some of it's going into the air, some of it's being captured and put into the fly ash. That only makes sense. I don't know that I can draw the conclusion that points to there being any kind of
deliberate
aerial,
emission. Okay.
Application of these materials. I think it would be very expensive to run a program like that, and that some smart congressman somewhere would have figured out that we're spending billions of dollars hauling a very heavy material around and preparing it and putting it into jets and stuff. I don't know that I could go to that kind of conclusion, but I can easily see that it makes sense that if we're burning coal, some of it's going out of the smokestack, some of it's going, being captured and, in the fly ash and put in these ponds. Yeah, they're going to have kind of the same numbers and compositions of chemicals.
And your suggestion is, Scott Banbury, that having read Dr. Herndon, at least one of Dr. Herndon's paper, one that was retracted, by the way, by the publisher of it, that paper simply suggests you're saying that the causation of what Dr. Herndon finds in his analysis is just air pollution from the usual bad guys, the utilities. Is that shorthand for what you're saying?
That's the source that I know is real, and so that's what I'm working on right now. If in fact there's any merit to Herndon's study, I hope other researchers are looking at it. But at this point in time, myself and certainly the Sierra Club, we have to look at what we know is happening. What we know is happening is that we do not perfectly capture all of the pollution that comes from the burning of coal and goes up the smokestack. We kept building stacks higher and kept adding new pollution control devices to them. It's become more expensive to do that now than it is to just shut down the coal plants and replace them with renewable energy. Is our preference, solar and wind. And energy efficiency, just not wasting so much energy. But on the business side of things, most utilities are choosing to shut down these dirty, expensive to maintain, expensive to keep clean coal plants and replacing them with high efficiency combined cycle natural gas plants.
Well, what's interesting about this paper, though, is that Dr. Herndon says he noticed a change in the weather in San Diego, which is generally very, very bright, very sunny, no clouds, very dry, meaning that jet traffic does not ordinarily create contrails, which are which come from the back of planes when there's moisture in the air mixed with the heat of the engine at very cold temperatures. He said that there's a ramping up of a program that creates a dull sky over that city very, very frequently. And he says that this is something that you can't just, and I would say, Scott Banbury, that you can't account for that by just saying, well, that's just pollution from steam plants in Nevada or Tennessee. That there's something going on there.
David, the atmosphere is changing rapidly for known reasons. Part of the problem with burning coal is that it puts a lot of carbon dioxide into our atmosphere. And I think probably most of your listeners have heard arguments about the climate change effects that come from that, carbon dioxide acting as a greenhouse gas. I don't know if you brought me on the show to argue that point at all today, but, so weather patterns are changing. I'm not a meteorologist or a climatologist, so I can't speak to specific conditions over San Diego, but I grew up in Arizona. Arizona has been increasingly humid, due to a multiplicity of reasons, part of which might be changing weather patterns. I actually did live in Ocean Beach, San Diego for a little more than a year, and I can tell you when I lived there, I saw contrails behind jets. And the conditions up at 20,000 foot or higher, are oftentimes a lot different than they are immediately, at ground level.
Scott Banbury, I want to thank you for joining my listener to me here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
Thank you, David. Scott, I always enjoy being on your show.
Appreciate it. Scott Banbury is Sierra Club of Tennessee Conservation Program Coordinator, and we've been talking about coal fly ash, something he's been fighting as a danger on the ground. This is David Tulis.
Expect lots of clouds and some patchy fog to start out your Thursday. Could see a spotty shower pass through, but not a bad day. Highs warm into the lower 70s. Tonight, mild lows near 65. For Friday, breezy, warm highs mid-70s with scattered showers and thunder showers likely Friday night through Saturday morning. For lunch or dinner, come to Guthrie's, home of the original golden fried delicious chicken finger with their special sauce. Open daily locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, and Ringgold. Go get Guthrie's. It's always good. And I'm WDEF News 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
Sky Aerial Services uses advanced drone technology to give you a better perspective and depth of your property and project. We offer aerial photography and video for your business, farm, home, or advertising campaigns, as well as editing services to complete the experience. Call us at 423-521-0284 and see how we can help you tell your story about your business, property, or project. We work with real estate professionals, both commercial and residential, developers, engineer inspectors, surveyors, ad agencies, auto and boat dealers, mapping services, insurance inspectors, corporate marketing, charity events, weddings, and photographers. Our consultation is free. Call 423-521-0284. That's 423-521-0284, or visit our website, skyaerialservices.com. Sky Aerial Services. The sky is our limit.
Cell Surgeon, an affordable quick fix for your smartphone and tablet in the Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza.
We do the best quality work. We have the best customer service, the most competitive prices around.
Cell Surgeon, a painless operation to fix your sick device.
Well, if you have a cheap charger or something that's not really designed for your phone, it can mess with your battery. It can actually fry your phone. So you need to make sure you have a quality product that's going to be designed for your phone.
Cell Surgeon, your smartphone doctor's in the house at the Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza.
You charge it in the morning, and by noon it's at 50% under normal use. That means your battery's pretty much dead. And once you've reached that point, it starts to deteriorate.
Cell Surgeon, call 423-668-0100 or go to cellphonerepairchattanooga.com.
We do free estimates. If your phone's not working properly, bring it in. We're happy to take a look at it and diagnose it and see what we think is wrong with it at no charge. Most phone repairs can be done in 30 minutes or less.
Cell Surgeon, an affordable quick fix for your smartphone and tablet in the Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza.
Don't take it in the bathroom. Don't ever put it in your back pocket. And don't charge your phone while you're sleeping.
Cell Surgeon, an affordable quick fix for your smartphone and tablet in the Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza. Call 423-668-0100 or go to cellphonerepairchattanooga.com. That's cellphonerepairchattanooga.com. Cell Surgeon, your smart device doctor is in the house.
Here you are, working to keep your customers happy and to manage your cash flow. IRS problems are the last thing you need, but here they are, flapping about you like vultures. Get help from Eric Pelton and his team of accountants at E.J. Pelton Company. Audits, letters, proposed return changes, 1099s, penalty threats. Pelton Tax Resolution Services brings peace of mind and helps you keep more of what you've earned. EJPelton.com. Offices on Brainerd Road and in Soddy Daisy, just north of the Bilo. That's E.J. Pelton. Call 622-3156. Think ahead, 622-3156.
Here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's got third. He's going for second. Earnhardt going for the lead.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series is on the Motor Racing Network.
Fox News Talk 1240.
Hear it live on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Check it out live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Fox News Talk 1240.
If the South would have won, we'd have had it made. I'd probably run for president of the southern states. Today Elvis passed away, but
you give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Soddy Daisy. Chattanooga.
CBS News, I'm Frank Sedapani. Burgers and fries, chips and dips, and Coke and Pepsi may not be the villains they've been made out to be. CBS's Barry Bagnetto tells us about an eye-opening report.
Analyzing federal data, Cornell researcher David Judd admits he was surprised to find 95% of Americans across a range of body weights consume roughly the same amounts of soda, candy, and fast food. Conclusion, he says, junk food's not the prime driver of obesity. People are going to be listening to this and they're going to say, look at that, I can eat all the junk food I want now. It's not going to make a difference.
That's actually sort of my nightmare scenario. It doesn't say it's okay to eat as much of that as you want.
It does say obesity is complex and that the total diet and consumption patterns should get more attention. Barry Bagnetto, CBS News, Washington.
The American public's getting its first look at the trade deal with 11 other Pacific Rim nations that critics say will send jobs overseas. CBS's Pam Colder has some highlights.
Under the deal, countries have to legislate minimum wages and hours of work, but it does not set a floor for pay or a ceiling on time on the job. It also bans forced and child labor and employment discrimination. Critics will be looking very closely to see how all this is enforced.
I'm Stephen Portnoy on Capitol Hill. President Obama has to wait 3 months for the public to review the text of the agreement before he signs it. That'll trigger another review period here in Congress. With top presidential candidates of both parties coming out against the deal, House Speaker Paul Ryan says he's reserving judgment. Ryan says he hopes the agreement is a good one for U.S. workers.
It could be a day or two until 20,000 British tourists begin to leave Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. Great Britain suspended flights to and from Sharm el-Sheikh after seeing intelligence that a bomb may have blown a Russian airliner out of the sky. British Foreign Secretary Philip Hammond.
There is a significant possibility that the Russian aircraft was brought down by an explosive device on board.
CBS News contributor and former Deputy CIA Director Michael Morrell tells us forensic evidence will determine if that's the case.
We need bomb fragments or bomb residue from the wreckage, or we need intercepted communications of senior ISIS officials who would be in a position to know what they did.
A murder-suicide's taken the lives of 3 people and a gunman at a home in Oakland, Maine. The locals say that doesn't happen here.
I just heard some gunshots, or what seemed to be like gunshots, popping noises, and I went out and I locked my screen door and I turned off all my lights, and then all of a sudden, like, the entire street was just swarmed with police.
They found a 4-year-old girl alive inside. Police don't have a motive for the killings. An 18-year-old who was 5 when his mother in Alabama reported him missing has been found safe in Ohio living with his father. The father is facing charges in both states. The boy apparently didn't have a clue he was missing until he tried to apply for college. A real estate industry survey found the percentage of first-time homebuyers is hovering near a 3-year low. Pfizer is doubling the allowable income level for people to receive dozens of its medicines for free. The Dow is up 59. This is CBS News.
Attention business owners. We know that owning a business means getting things done right now. So if your right now list includes a new building, call the Right Now Company. General Steel. We can design a building for your business quickly and save you thousands of dollars. That's right, thousands. You may think General Steel only builds large projects or that you can't afford General Steel quality. Well, check these prices. How about a 40 by 60 foot building for under $22,000 or even a 50 by 100 for under $35,000? That's right, a 5,000 square foot building for under $35,000. And these buildings all have General Steel quality. Best of all, you can still order a building and have it delivered in time to build this year. How's that for right now? So don't delay. Call General Steel today at 866-96-STEEL. That's 866-96-STEEL. Need more planning? No problem. General Steel can help you with that right now. Call General Steel and be in your new building this year. 866-96-STEEL. That's 866-967-8335.
Protesters want NBC to tell Donald Trump, you're fired. CBS's Don Champion tells us why.
Hey, ho, ho. Demonstrations outside NBC headquarters. A coalition of advocacy groups is calling on the network to cancel Donald Trump's appearance on Saturday Night Live. They say they have 500,000 signatures supporting them. Trump stirred controversy when he kicked off his presidential campaign by describing illegal immigrants as rapists and drug dealers.
No one will have to pass the hat for Taylor Swift, but Forbes magazine says she wasn't the music industry's top female moneymaker over the past 12 months. That distinction fell to Katy Perry.
I got the eye of the tiger.
Perry didn't sell as many albums as Swift, but her prismatic tour and endorsements with Cody and CoverGirl were huge. Perry made $135 million. Swift was a distant second at $80 million. Frank Sedapani, CBS News.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
Lug butt attorneys deserve their pay. The attorneys that helped the gay couple push the Tennessee case through the Court of Appeals and then to the Supreme Court are asking for compensation from state government, according to WSMV TV, the Nashville TV station. They're wanting state government to pay out about $2 million for their efforts. They were working pro bono, but of course they were keeping track of their hours and probably submitting bills to their clients, which they hoped would be paid. Though the clients in such cases generally don't have to pay because of the excitement generated in the prospect of a court victory. And lawyers, of course, want court victories. They want to be connected with big cases, and big cases are their own marketing. You don't have to pay for advertising if you have a big case and are known for having pushed an important claim through the court system. The story of WSMV has an interesting verb, and it is because, of course, the press views things from the establishment's perspective, and that's not to be complained about. That's just the way it is. And the verb is affirmed. Which says when the High Court affirmed gay marriage at the end of June, most of the attention was focused on the battle itself, etc. Well, you affirm something that exists. You don't affirm something that doesn't exist. But what happened was effectively a revolution against federal government and the idea of federal government, and the idea of compacts among parties to government. And that's what the American system has been about. And people who believe in constitutional government, who hold that the Constitution is supreme over the country and not the court, would say that indeed we still have constitutional government, but it must be made to exist by fighting for it. And I would suggest that the fighting for constitutional government is not always in court. In fact, I would think that for Tennessee to declare that it is a state for marriage, it has to be done in complete disregard of courts, Herbert Slattery III's, the attorney generals, people like that, and lawyers who think that the legal system, the legal structure is the ultimate reality, and that everything that can be made to fit into that system for the organization of society can and should. But law does account for marriage. It does account for common law marriage, which is marriage by right. But the system of public policy, as it's called, the system of law, has gone in such a way that everyone connected with government, being mostly attorneys, right, say that a high court opinion in Obergefell versus Hodges, the Poofter lug butt opinion that came earlier this year, is law, right? It's not just an opinion. It is the law. It is, in fact, replacing constitutions, replacing statutes passed lawfully by general assemblies, the constitutional amendments passed lawfully by the peoples of the states. And for Tennessee to escape this bondage, it has to act like legislatures can't, and political bodies can't hold that opinions are law. It has to understand that opinions are just that. They are beyond the legal realm. It can't hold. And its governors and legislatures can't, and political bodies can't hold that opinions are law. It has to understand that opinions are just that. They are the writs from the weakest of any of the three branches in government. That's the judiciary. The judiciary is the weakest. The executive is the strongest. Of course, the one in the middle is the legislative or lawmaking branch of government. And that's true federally. Or in the state. And it's also true in city government. We have here Mayor Andy Burke is the chief executive, and we have a legislative branch and we have a judicial branch, just like in the larger systems. We have that reflected here as a prudent and good formulation of the proper use of what the scriptures would call, or the catechisms would call the ministry of the magistrate, right? The civil magistrate. Or the judge who determines who whose crimes are to be punished with death and whose crimes are to be reversed. The crimes reversed by compensation and restoration and giving back. That's in the scriptures that are the basis of Western democratic governments. That is the limit of the judge, right? The judge he judges those accused of crimes, and there are only two ways for crimes to be dealt with: one by death for rape, murder, buggery, and such crimes as that. And then the other is restitution and restoration. There's no prison system in truly equitable and just nations. There may be jails, but there are not prisons. Yeah, you have a jail to hold someone for trial. There does have to be a place for the officer to restrain one accused. Now we're talking with Scott Banbury, the conservation program coordinator for the Sierra Club of Tennessee, and his position is as follows. We are about coal striping. Coal striping is the new term here since we've been pursuing the so-called chemtrailing story over Hamilton County and Chattanooga. I've been calling it, to avoid that term, I've been calling it sky striping, because everyone can agree there are stripes in the sky. They are white. They are common. They are periodic. They are intense. They change the weather. They change the sky. They dim the sky out. So we can all agree on that term. So I've changed it, though. I've modified it, given developments, to coal striping, because that's what's being laid in the skies. It's coal fly ash. Now, Scott Banbury and the Sierra Club's position is that the paper that Dr. Herndon has written, and you can see his interview with me, by the way, at Nooganomics.com. His position is ultimately mistaken. I think that's what we have to kind of draw from his analysis, is that for him to attribute these the aluminum, strontium, and barium findings in the water, the leachate and water around San Diego, is simply mistaken. It's not the jets that have dimmed the sky there. That's not the cause. It is simply the burning of coal. And the Sierra Club proposes an end to the use of coal, an end to the most profitable and useful form of energy, and very inexpensive, and proposes a much higher cost system where you essentially don't have a lot of energy available. And it is, of course, the environmental theory, the green theory, which is anti-population, anti-business, anti-industry. And in the end, it's anti-capital, because it favors decapitalization and a restriction of human activity down to a very small area and a very small number of people. That's the ultimate goal of this religious movement that's called environmentalism. It is a religious movement. It's a kind of humanism, which has many anti-human barbs, if you will, not favoring the arrival of babies upon the face of mankind. But Scott Banbury says that Dr. Herndon is probably mistaken, that probably what he's seeing is just the result of coal coming out of boilers in coal-fired steam plants like Shawnee Steam Plant in Paducah, Kentucky, or the plant at Gallatin, or the other plant at Kingston. If you go to our Twitter feed, you can see a picture of the Kingston plant and the giant coal waste fields around that plant. And the coal waste is slag, it's bottom ash, and then it's also the very interesting material called coal fly ash, the ash that flies out of the smokestack if it's not scrubbed out and scraped out of the gas before emerging from the muzzle of that smokestack hundreds of feet above the ground. Coal fly ash is the villain, Dr. Herndon says. Now, find out more about this. You go to my website, which is our chief sponsor here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, and that is Nooganomics.com. Today, your eyes will be shocked. I want to shock your eyes. Go to that website and look at the photo gallery. There's a photo gallery that has some scenes from Chattanooga. What does David Tulis see when he looks up with his little digital imager in hand? What does David Tulis, that's me, your host, see? And I do want you to take a look. And then read the interview. It is an interview worth giving your time to. We're brought to you by Cell Surgeon, right next to the old Chicago's Pizza, Northgate Mall. Cell Surgeon repairs on your screen, on your handy device, your smartphone, done often within about half an hour if there's not a pile of work there. The number is 668-0100, 668-0100. Cell surgeon, the name to keep in mind if you have that accident with your phone, and will be taken care of by the doctor who knows the guts and can bring a painless surgery, no anesthesia needed. Also, if you need a firearm, the best place to go and shop is Carter Shooting Supply. That's Carter Shooting Supply on Highway 58. Family-run business, folks who love firearms, love ammo, love to give you a great selection. That's Carter Shooting Supply on Highway 58. There on the right as you head out of town. If you have a business and need help with numbers, the numbers guy in Chattanooga is E.J. Pelton, Eric Pelton. His business is E.J. Pelton Company, and you can reach him at 622-3156, 622-3156. You, my listener, thinking of starting a business? Well, Eric would love to meet with you, maybe to hear a bit of your ideas, and maybe he can help you put your feet on the ground if you have very lofty aspirations for an enterprise. Call Eric Pelton. The website, by the way, is ejpelton.com. That's ejpelton, Pelton.com. And my name is David Tulis, and we're thinking about local economy and the free market. And the Charles Glenowitz death, the cop on the take who wanted to make his death look like another cop murder, right? Another cop murder in that most dangerous of professions, where your life is on the line every moment, even when you're dealing with guys with bow ties like me. That is what I do have on, by the way. I thought today of shocking my YouTube viewer. We are on YouTube. The channel is Hot News Talk Radio. And I thought, man, what if I just changed today, just wore a regular tie? That would be shocking. That people would flock to see it. But I'm glad I've got you here, and I know you, my listener, don't care that much about bow ties one way or the other. And I'm very thankful that you don't. It really doesn't matter. I'm the guy on radio, and I'm the man in the next seat next to you, right, as you're going down the highway. I do thank you for giving me a couple of minutes of your time. I am just the number 5 show here at our station. That you're here really is a great honor to me. And I do want you to think about our other programs. We've got Keon Rose, the sports guy, at 1 o'clock, Digital Drive at noon. Digital Drive is a remarkable show by just a remarkable young man of whom we make a great deal of fun here. But he's really a very astute, libertarian-minded, solid-thinking observer of the tech sector, not very friendly to the good people, if you know what I mean, and very, very concerned about growing surveillance of innocent people. There's a story at Chattanooga.com about Senator Alexander. He is essentially his statement regarding EPA's mud puddle regulation. He says the Obama administration's penchant for burdensome regulation has gone too far, that the EPA and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers are even trying to regulate farmers' mud puddles. We must stop the EPA, he says, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers' efforts to add to the big wet blanket of burdensome regulations that mean higher costs for Tennessee families, farmers, and business. The story says that on Tuesday, the Senate Democrats blocked the Federal Water Quality Protection Act, which would have stopped the Waters of the United States rule from going into effect, and also set forth principles and guidelines for the EPA and the Corps to follow if the agencies rewrite the rule. We are here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Also, just kind of in political news, Senator Todd Gardenhire is responding at TV12's website has a note from him. He's rebuking city council, I think maybe with words that are maybe a bit more surly than he personally feels, about its vote in favor of Insure Tennessee, the little bit of cartel mechanics that touches on the insured. He says it is disingenuous for the council to tell the legislature what to do about health care when just a few years ago they cut out $1.5 million per year for indigent care. He says this was done despite healthcare experts telling them the money was critical to treat these patients. The council had their opportunity to make indigent care a priority. They declined, it. If the council wants to lecture the legislature on healthcare issues, I would strongly suggest, he says, that they first restore these indigent funds. Of course, I don't think Todd Gardenhire would favor that either in principle. Until then, this resolution will be seen as what is so clearly as thinly veiled, highly politicized hypocrisy. That's, to say that someone's being hypocritical is certainly very, very bold and very, very direct. My name is David Tulis, and we are here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. And we want to talk just a second here, just to bring up something. The whole idea of self-government. Our theory here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio is self-government. We are very much pro-government people. And because we are pro-government people, that often puts us at odds with establishment figures and establishment ideas. And we want you to understand that if you have a right, if you have a constitutional right, a statutory right, a right of substance, or a procedural right, you have to defend it, or you don't have it, or you just don't have it. There's a story that I looked at yesterday that I wanted to mention to you by Marius Payton. She is a writer for Fox TV, myfoxmemphis.com, out where Scott Banbury lives, the Sierra Club men we're talking with. The story is about knowing your rights during traffic stops, and yet somehow the advice is just confusing. It's just confusing, and I won't say that it's it's anything deliberate. It's just sort of happenstance that we all just sort of cave in. Local economy is valuable because people value it, right? They value it. It's an asset which they value as an idea. Really, it's an ideal. And they are jealous to preserve it in the particulars. And that's where I think we need to maybe do a little bit of work. And here's why. It's easy to be conservative. It's easy to be constitutional. It's not difficult to describe yourself as favoring the Constitution, favoring liberty, favoring freedom. But it's important to make that happen in particular cases. And that is to say, in local economy. Everybody can pontificate about our lost rights and the need to restore them and so on. The need to have the constitutional balance returned to the people, right, in favor of the people. It has been overwashed by claims of the state since Lincoln, but in large extents from 2 world wars and a federal president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And then of course under Obama we have the national debt limit, the national debt ceiling being made without limit, right? There's no limit, and the good people can borrow past the $17 trillion that they have in continuing deficit spending. Something supported, by the way, by both major parties, right? Both parties are deficit spenders, big time. And I don't think any, except for Ron Paul, maybe any of the Republican candidates are willing to point that out, that they rely on deficit spending to get their way for the Constitution, right? That's how they probably will try to present it. I don't think any of them are sound. Ron Paul is probably the closest. Rand Paul, rather, is probably the closest to being sound on that point. But if you have a right, you have to defend it. If you don't know your rights, you cannot defend them. And if you have no rights, well, then all you can do is slavishly submit. The story out of Memphis says a traffic violation leads to the flashing blue lights and the police officer's introduction. We met with Officer R. Reddit from the Millington Police Department. Millington is a suburb town of Memphis, and he says, I like to be able to see their hands. Okay, so that's point number one. Your hands need to be visible in a traffic stop. Number two, we asked if you wanted the hands positioned on the steering wheel at 10 or 2, and even if you had a preference. So very, very subservient questions there. That will be fine, he says, if they're on the lap or just as long as I can see them and I know that they're not a threat to me at that point, Officer Reddit says. He also says excessive movement is not good. Okay, so don't be moving around. Don't be fidgeting. Right, sit still. Don't make sudden movements for the back seat or for something under the front seat. So if you have a tape recorder or have a camera, have it right there in front of you. Always drive with these things ready in case you need them. There's a quote from a defense attorney, Leslie Ballin, who's defended many drivers. He says they can ask passengers for their IDs. Does the passenger have to acquiesce? No. No request for ID is really permitted. And traffic stops should be for specific causes, and the causes should be dispensed with and dispatched immediately and quickly. In other words, you don't want a long engaged encounter with a discussion with the officer about your rights. You just say, okay, cite me, cite me, and I'm going. Keep it at that. And in a way, getting a citation is the salvation, saving you from abuse, saving you from having to defend your rights more than that. If you made a turn without using your indicator, that's probable cause to stop you. Okay, he can cite you for that. But he doesn't have from that cause to search your car or cause to make you talk about who's in your car or what's in your car, so that you have to now give him probable cause by flapping your gums. You have no obligation to speak about anything other than the cause of the stop. So he has to very quickly say, okay, I stopped you for a missing light, or I stopped you for a brake light that's out. Okay, well, fine. Then if that's the cause, and he states that cause, then that's the limit of the stop. It can't go beyond that, right? You're under no obligation to show anything beyond that, and your passengers are not part of that. They don't have to show ID either. So that's that. So, but the attorney makes some statements that are not clear when he talks about complying. Comply with the officer and have him in control of the situation. Okay, but there's more to it than that. This is David Tulis.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
We expect lots of clouds and some patchy fog to start out your Thursday. Could see a spotty shower pass through, but not a bad day. Highs warm into the lower 70s. Tonight, mild lows near 65. For Friday, breezy, warm highs mid-70s with scattered showers and thunder showers likely Friday night through Saturday morning. For lunch or dinner, come to Guthrie's, home of the original golden fried delicious chicken finger with their special sauce. Open daily locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, and Ringgold. Go get Guthrie's. It's always good. And I'm WDEF News Swell Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare. On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
The Fed raising rates, China's economy in trouble. Don't let headlines derail your long-term financial strategy. I'm Edward Jones financial advisor Patrick Neal. At Edward Jones, we provide the tools for a reasoned, disciplined approach to investing. Stop by my office next to the Target Shopping Center in Hickson, or call me at 423-870-7894. That's Patrick Neal at 870-7894. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection: loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
You want more business. You want to increase your bottom line. You want to spend less on advertising, imaging your business, and general expenses. You need Trade Bank. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Trade Bank. Call now to get access to nearly 400 local businesses. Trade Bank. Call 877-2202. 877-2202. Trade Bank. You want to increase your cash flow, your competitive edge, attract new customers, and build a loyal customer base. You need Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call right now, 877-2202. When you join Trade Bank, you'll get the benefit of free advertising in our monthly magazine, tradebank.com, emails, and mailouts. Join Trade Bank now and receive your Trade Bank debit card with trade credits to spend any way you want with our wide variety of Trade Bank partners. For almost 30 years, Trade Bank has been your voice for small business, a member of the American Bankers Association, and in good standing with you. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call now for a free consultation, 877-2202. That's 877-2202. Trade Bank of Chattanooga.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducts. Call now.
Compass Media Network's coverage of the NFL. Hi, this is Jerry Recco. Join Kevin Ray, Danny White, myself for all the action.
Hot News Talk 1240.
If it's the NFL, it's right here.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Hot News Talk 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga.
Fox News Radio. I'm Lillian Wu. It just got harder to reach Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. Lufthansa saying it's suspending all flights to and from Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. That's where the crashed Russian airliner took off from. The UK saying there is a significant possibility a bomb brought the plane down, and it's grounding all flights between Britain and the popular vacation spot.
UK aviation experts are checking out security measures at the airport. Egypt calling the move premature and unwarranted.
Fox's Simon Owen. At the CMA Awards on ABC last night, Chris Stapleton taking home 3 awards. Album of the Year for Traveler, which he got emotional.
You know, about 2 years ago, I lost my dad, and I made this record thinking a lot about the music that he would have liked.
Also winning for male vocalist and new artist. And jobless help requests rising last week, but still near historic lows. Fox News, we report. You decide.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
Local economy requires local government. It requires self-government, first of all. And then it requires that governments on the civil side be restrained by law, that they be restrained and that they operate not according to the ambitions of the peoples who are in them or others, but that they comply with what the people's will, and I would suggest through God's will as well, through revelation. The revelation for the civil magistrate, for the sheriff, for county government, for the General Assembly would be, of course, the Constitution, which is generally constitutions are permissive documents. They let legislatures, governors, and states determine their future. But what do we do when law is overturned by the action of men? What if laws are overturned by opinion, not by other laws that supersede and replace laws, but by mere opinion? Well, that's what happened out of Washington not long ago in June with the pro-Poofter decision, the pro-gay decision, Obergefell versus Hodges, which pretends to overturn marriage. The press says that it established that it allows gay marriages and so on. But what it really did was deconstruct marriage, or it claimed to deconstruct marriage and then impose upon Tennessee and all the other states that don't have gay marriage. To hear about this whole idea of how law can be restored, how lesser governing officials can defy and reject and declare null and void the actions of greater ones. We have Cal Zastrow. He's a pro-life activist, and he's a family man. He's going to be in Mississippi right now, and he'll be in Tennessee on Saturday to help marshal support for a bill in the General Assembly. It's the May Beavers and Mark Pody bill, the two main drivers out of Wilson County, just east of Nashville. It's called the Tennessee Natural Marriage Defense Act, and it is a very vigorous defense of this whole idea of local economy and the free market, and actually the defense of constitutional government. Cal, give my listener a thumbnail sketch of what the problem is and what this bill does to address it.
The problem is this, David, is that we no longer have our elected officials doing their job, making law and defending the law and taking responsibility for the law to protect innocent people and punish criminals. We no longer have that. What we have is we have some judges pretending that their opinions are higher than the law. When people say, show me the law, we just got to uphold the law. Okay, who voted on the law? Where is it written? Who voted for it? Which executive signed it? Who's enforcing that? So we want the rule of law. But what happened in the Obergefell Supreme Court decision is that they said the Constitution of the state of Tennessee and the other states that your state law, your state constitution means nothing. Our opinion is that marriage, you cannot define marriage as one man, one woman. And your state constitution has no authority against our opinion. So it's unelected people, unelected judges, instead of saying, here's how we see the law in its constitutional context. That's their job, to issue opinions on what constitutional context is on current laws. But when they make up laws, they've gone out of bounds. They no longer have the authority to do that, any more than they have the authority to pull you over if you're speeding and shoot you in the foot. That is not their place. That is not their job. And the greatest tyranny is when we allow them to get away with it, when our elected officials, our county commissioners, our sheriffs, our state legislatures, and our governor, when we allow the courts to trample on the law and to treat their opinions as if they're law, that is even a greater tyranny. So we're excited that Tennessee is the very first state to introduce legislation saying we're going to uphold our state constitution and our state law, and we're not going to be criminal lawbreakers in joining in the Obergefell decision. It's an exciting time.
Well, we have in Tennessee common law marriage. We're not a common law marriage state, but common law marriage, as recognized in states such as Alabama, is a fundamental right that every man has. My listener has the right to marry under common law without anybody's permission. However, we have in Tennessee, we have a claim upon marriage by the state, and that's been of long standing. People get marriage licenses. They somehow are afraid to act under their rights to marry, and so they get the state's permission. They get the state to record their marriages and also to permit their marriages, and that's the system that's at issue. It's not that you've lost a fundamental right to marry, but it's that the state's interest in marriage has been overturned in favor of the homosexual sodomite position.
Right, by over 80%. The people of Tennessee have voted that they want to define marriage as one man, one woman. That's what they want for the definition in their Constitution. And the U.S. Supreme Court has said, your vote, your voice, your law, your Constitution don't mean anything. We're going to tell you what the law is, and we're going to negate yours. But the issue is usurpation of power here, and judicial supremacy over law, judicial supremacy over the Constitution, over common law, over voted upon law. So I'm very thankful to be back passing and helping in Tennessee, and let's fight this tyranny peacefully and lawfully and restore the rule of law and order to our state.
Well, how does this bill by May Beavers and Mark Pody do that? What does it say, and how does it propose that things can be restored to the way they were before Obergefell?
I'm quoting the bill now. It says, whereas the United States Supreme Court is not the sole and final arbiter of the powers of the states under the 9th and 10th Amendments when an action area outside of its jurisdiction, and whereas the judiciary was created by the founders to have neither force nor will, but merely judgment, it says, whereas the United States Supreme Court is not infallible and has issued lawless decisions, be it enacted by the General Assembly of the State of Tennessee. Tennessee Code Annotated Title 36, Chapter 3, Part 1 is amended, and in the following as a new appropriately designed section, that we will not recognize the lawful authority of the Obergefell decision. And it also will criminalize officials who violate the law of Tennessee by issuing marriage licenses that are not lawfully to be issued in the state of Tennessee, to polygamous families, to same-sex couples, to people and animals, or to corporations. So it's an exciting opportunity that Representative Pody and Senator Beavers have done to lead the nation in saying, let's uphold the rule of law instead of the rule of court opinions and tyranny.
Well, how is it that you, Cal Zastrow, and others in Nashville are trying to generate interest? What is the agenda to have people such as my listener learn more about this, or take some kind of role in restoring statutory marriage under the Constitution?
We've built a new website that people can sign up on and get more information on. It's brand new, so all of the position papers and things aren't there yet, but it's called courtscannotmakelaws.com/TN. And what we're doing is educating and informing people to get involved and to care about. And also we're getting people to try and educate their legislators to become co-sponsors of the House and Senate bills. So if a large majority of them will co-sponsor now, we've got 2 months before the legislature starts up. So this is what we can do. We can educate our local state reps, our state senators, and we can get them to sign on as co-sponsors to these bills. It's House Bill 1412 and Senate Bill 1437, so that when the legislature reconvenes, that the political forces working against us and the moral forces working against the law, that they cannot bury these bills in committee. If a large majority are co-sponsored, then it goes straight to the House floor, straight to the Senate floor for a vote. So that would be our goal. That may not be easy to do because the legislature is not in session right now, and folks are working and off with their families, and it's harder to get a hold of them. But we're encouraging people to try, especially if they're elected officials that are out fundraising or doing town hall meetings, etc. Or just call up your neighbors if you live near them and go see them and say, hey, we invite you to co-sponsor these bills, and to say yes to the rule of law and no to the rule of lawless tyranny.
We would think that Governor Bill Haslam, the head of the executive branch in Tennessee, would be in favor of these arguments. But I wonder. He is an elder in the Presbyterian Church, kind of mid, not really the conservative Presbyterian Church, but not the liberal one. He's a Christian man. He's a man of principle, and I believe in many ways he does probably also the richest elected official in the state, maybe the richest governor. But he's a man, in many ways, a man of principle. You'd think that he would be in favor of this. Now, you'd think he would even jump for it, because he, with a show of sadness, a show of regret, had his Attorney General, Mr. Slattery, direct all the county clerks, the 95 county clerks in Tennessee, to yield to the Obergefell opinion as if it were a new law passed by the General Assembly, and they, with a kind of impotent cowardice, said, we can do nothing more. We are helpless to stop this. Is that true? Is it true that lawyers can tell you what to do if you're a governor?
Well, it's very sad that the governor has chosen to uphold lawless criminal behavior instead of uphold the law, and to instruct the Attorney General to go along with on that. That's very sad, but that is very true. The governor has talked to the clerks. The Attorney General has talked to the clerks and told them that they should not, they will not, they cannot uphold the law and Constitution of Tennessee, that they will follow the lawless opinion in the Obergefell decision. In fact, the governor did that on the same day, June 26th last summer, when the U.S. Supreme Court issued their ruling. The governor came out shortly thereafter and said, okay, that's the law of the land, when actually it's the lawlessness of the land. Well, so that's true, that the governor is opposed to the rule of law and upholding the Constitution of Tennessee at this time.
Explain to my listener, Cal Zastrow, the difference between political action and a legal action. Lawyers guide business. They'll guide my listeners as businessmen in a legal action, but in the end, it is the business owner. In the end, it is the governor who has to decide. That kind of action is not plainly and simply legal.
Right. Do we want to be ruled with opinions, or do we want to be ruled with law? That's the foundational question.
And it seems the governor...
law is not the will of a man. The law of a governor, the will of a judge or a policeman, that is not what the law is. The law is superior to them, and they take an oath to uphold the law.
And it seems like...
So when the law says...
Go ahead.
So when the law clearly says, here's what the definition of marriage is. Here's what will happen in the state regarding marriage. That is the law. Now, it's a political manipulation and it's criminal behavior to disregard the law and insert someone's will or someone's opinion upon that. So if Tennessee wants to change if the voters here in Tennessee want to change their state constitution, okay, the legislature can bring that back up. They can discuss it, they can decide it, they can vote on that constitutional amendment, they can put that before a popular vote of the people. Okay, let's have that fight, let's do that. But until that happens, well, the law remains as it is. Please, folks, don't pretend to be Christians. Don't pretend to be law enforcement officials. Don't pretend to be elected officials who are governing well when you totally ignore that law. You ignore the Constitution and go with people's opinions instead. So it's a political manipulation. It's a pile-on game here that's happening where, oh, well, the Supreme Court said it, so we just abandon our law and we'll just go with what those people say, with what their opinion is. It's a horrible thing to do to the rule of law in our nation and in our state.
The question that I think would answer is something like this, Cal Zastrow. The governor is advised by his attorney general, Herbert Slattery III, that this is the high court's opinion. This is the law. And for an attorney, that is true. A high court opinion is law, but not everyone's an attorney. So the high court opinion, which may be a law for an attorney, is not just law. It's not a law for a governor. It's just an opinion, and he has the wherewithal as a man in his manhood, as a person, and in his office to uphold the Tennessee Constitution and the U.S. Constitution. He has a position to say, well, I don't really care what you say the law is. I don't really care what lawyers think the law is, or because it's not a law to me. Why? Because I'm not a lawyer. I'm not bound by that system. I have a greater responsibility than just the legalities. And so I guess what I'm asking for is for you to describe it's a political decision. In other words, it's a decision which has perils and risks that are not simply legal. They're moral. There could be military. There are other fields that upon which the governor could stand and say, we are going to defend marriage come what may.
Right. The governor could say, and he's taken an oath to uphold the law. He did not take an oath to uphold court opinions. He did not take a law, or he did not take an oath to uphold popular whims of the people.
Popular delusions.
To uphold the law. And so he must obey that oath and uphold the law in this situation.
And it seems like he should.
What he's doing is a political decision to defy the law and go with some other people's opinions. And so we're not advocating rebellion against the courts of the governor. We're not advocating that at all. We're defying lawlessness with upholding the law. That's what we want people to do. Get educated about how they can interpose, how they can peacefully uphold the law, and it's the governor's job to uphold the law here.
Well, Cal Zastrow,
tyrants.
Cal Zastrow, explain how the ideas that you're describing here, and the ideas that my listener, I think, is interested in hearing more about, how do they originate in Christianity? How is it that Christianity makes it so that an official can say no to an emperor, that an official can say, maybe like Daniel, can say no to a figure of the scale of Nebuchadnezzar, who effectively owned the world at the time?
That was an interesting case, because Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were lesser magistrates in a civil government. They were civil servants. And their authority had power of life and death. He could just say, his word was law. So he could say, you're dead, and you're dead. That's it. That was the law. They could do that. But what those people did is they upheld the law. And when the king ordered them to break the law, when the king said, I'm the law, and you must violate your conscience, you must violate the law of God, they said, we have drawn a line, and that we will not violate God's law. We will not violate who God's character is. Do to us what you will. We will trust God, and we will do what's right. This is throughout biblical history. It's throughout church history, including in the book of Acts, where the apostles were commanded not to preach or teach in the name of Jesus, because some folks didn't like it and caused a bit of an uproar. And they said, we must obey God rather than man. And so that's a Christian principle of upholding the law and doing it peacefully, not saying those people are lawbreakers and let's go get just an armed mob together and do violence upon them. No, that isn't it at all. God is a God of order. He wants there to be civil magistrates. God is pleased. It's one of the fruits of Christian culture and Christian society that we have the culture that we do, that we have the laws that we do, that we're not just governed by warlords and bandits, that we have the rule of law. However, when that law goes against God, goes against itself, when people try and usurp that, that's where the individual believer, and especially the civil magistrate needs to stand up and say, know we're going to do what's right here.
What you're saying, Cal, is
responsible and say,
Sal.
no, in my county, we're not going to let tyrants come in and break the law.
Yeah. What if the sheriff? What if the sheriff of your county? Well, let me think of something. What if a law said, okay, you can kill your baby 5 days after birth? This law is passed by the General Assembly. Would Jim Hammond, the county sheriff here in Hamilton County, would he be in his rights to forbid any such thing and to say no one can kill a baby outside the womb 5 days after birth, and if they do, I'm going to arrest that person and charge him with murder. He knows that if he does that, he's going to be sued by the ACLU and others.
He would be within his right to do that. It would be his duty to do that.
And he would not be the lawbreaker. He would be the law enforcer.
The General Assembly, they cannot make a law. If they make a law that violates the Constitution, that law is null and void on its face. The Constitution guarantees every innocent person, the right to life, liberty, and property. And to say that a baby at whatever stage is not a person and has no right to life, then that is a violation of the Constitution and should be ignored as lawlessness by the county sheriff. And he should uphold the law and protect those innocent persons.
What you're saying, Cal Zastrow, is that Christianity, in its idea of government, makes government personal because God is personal. Government is personal, and so every official, even if he's a county clerk, which is simply a scribe in a county, even he has authority before God because he made an oath before God. He has the authority to say, I enforce the Constitution and I protect the people personally under the Constitution, because that's my job, is to be a constitutional officer. I protect the people. I save them from their enemies, internal and external. Even though I'm just a scribe, I'm just a pencil pusher and a record keeper. I have that authority. And so Christianity, in our understanding of government, makes even a lesser official have the authority to defy a king, to defy a president, to defy a United Nations, even, right? I mean, it makes government personal, and it gives personal responsibility for the enforcement and protection of liberties to the individual state actor.
All of us are accountable. And yes, we need pencil pushers that will be honest and keep accurate records and will uphold the law and say, no, you can't get a fraudulent marriage license. No, you can't register to vote 47 times here. We need people to rule and uphold the law and to be civil servants and civil magistrates that will do what's right before God and before the law.
Okay, Cal Zastrow, give the website again that you want my listener to visit.
www.courtscannotmakelawscom/TN. Encourage folks to sign up and get more information about upholding the rule of law and stopping the tyranny.
All right, there's an event in Nashville, December 5. Is that right?
December 5th. We'll be having it at a church building. That's not finalized and nailed down yet, but that will be up soon on the website. We invite people to come for more information, to hear more about this doctrine of lesser magistrate interposition, upholding the rule of law against tyranny, and also how people get more involved and volunteer if they choose to.
Well, Cal Zastrow, thanks for joining my listener and me here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
God bless you. Thanks for having me on, David.
Cal Zastrow is an activist for the unborn and has been already once in Tennessee to help organize support for the Beavers Pody legislation that creates a defense for marriage. That bill is called the Tennessee Natural Marriage Defense Act. And he is asking you, my listener, to go to a website, and you can subscribe there and get updates on coming events in this matter. Again, it's courtscannotmakelaws.com/TN. And that's courtscannotmakelaws.com/TN. And Cal Zastrow is making the argument that Christianity shows the way for personal government. And it allows even minor officials, sheriffs, county clerks, to say no to emperors, to mighty ones, to regiments of black-robed jurists out of Washington. He can say no to them. Of course, we here have Bill Knowles, a man who collapsed before that opinion, not rejecting his oath of office, rejecting the Constitution. But God is merciful, right? God is patient, and people do change their minds. We would hope that Bill Knowles and other county clerks who have capitulated in Tennessee will think that there's something that they've done wrong. There's something they need to do right. They can make amends. This tide of mud, if you will, from the lug butt lobby, the lug butt theory. can be diverted and things restored. But if not, they can't be restored. You always have this option. You can marry common law. That is to say, marrying without the permission of government. You don't have to ask permission to marry. Why would you get a license to marry? That is something that just boggles my mind. And yet it is just assumed that you cannot marry your sweetheart. Your son cannot marry that beautiful young lady he met at the university because he doesn't have state permission. So he has to go and get permission to marry. Marriage is a creational right. God gave it to every man at the creation. He gave it to Adam and Eve on down. This is David Tulis.
Expect lots of clouds and some patchy fog to start out your Thursday. Could see a spotty shower pass through, but not a bad day. Highs